These should be the places where solutions emerge. We open the series with an international perspective, organized in cooperation with the Embassy of Switzerland in Israel, giving us the opportunity to learn from the successful experience of two Swiss cities, Basel and Geneva. So I'm very happy to invite Jean-Daniel Ruch, the Ambassador of Switzerland in Israel, to open the webinar. We seem to be having some technical difficulties.
Yes, I'm afraid he was disconnected.
Oh dear. Okay, so should we wait or should we just continue with the first session?
Maybe we should start with the first session.
Okay. So hopefully there will be our last technical difficulty. But for the first session, first of all, let me explain that we have 3 sessions and each session is divided into 2 parts. The first is a monologue where the representative of the Swiss case study will present the case study, and then a dialogue with an Israeli counterpart. So the first session is dedicated to energy and smartness in the city. I'm very happy to invite Mr. Lukas Ott, Director of Urban Development in Basel, and for the dialogue, Eitan Ben-Ami, the Director of the Environmental and Sustainability Authority of Tel Aviv, will join him. So, Lukas, the floor is yours. And I believe you have a presentation. We seem to be having more technical difficulties. Lukas, are you with us?
Lucas, you should unmute yourself. We see your presentation well.
Hello, everybody. You can see my presentation?
Wonderful. The floor is yours.
Yes, thank you for the invitation. I look forward to telling you more about urban development.
Start your video.
Yes, can you see my presentation?
Yes, we can see it perfectly. We just want to see you as well. So just start your video.
Great.
And can you see?
We can see both you and the presentation. So you can just go ahead.
Yes, can you see the second chart now of my presentation?
We can see Basel.
Now Basel, the small metropolis on the Rhine.
Okay, wonderful. First of all, let me give you a very short overview of Basel. Basel, known as the small metropolis on the Rhine. Basel lies at the heart of the 3-country triangle where Switzerland, France, and Germany meet. Our city is the fastest developing economic region in Switzerland and a city among the top 10 in the world when it comes to quality of life, if we are to believe rankings. Basel offers residents and visitors a wide range of metropolitan qualities. To put it in a nutshell, life is good in Basel. But like other cities, we are facing challenges such as climate change, demographic change, and structural change, urging us to take action. Can you see the next chart?
Yes, perfectly.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, I like coming to sustainability. Of course, it's a central goal. But for us, sustainability is above all a methodological challenge. we have to take a 360-degree perspective in order to recognize conflicting goals. We have to approach these target conflicts with all stakeholders in a transparent and networked way. As we will see, smart city fits seamlessly into sustainability, strategically and methodically. It's important to emphasize, as an administration, both need a steering board if we want to take an active role as an administration. In Basel, the steering board is the Office of Cantonal and Urban Development. The Office of Urban Development works mostly on cross-sectional issues such as sustainability and acts as a link between the different departments in our administration, but also with all other stakeholders from politics, society, business, and science in order to enable integral urban and life development. Now to climate change. Basel pursues a dual strategy: climate change adaptation and mitigation. As a pioneering city in energy policy, Basel uses, for instance, 100% renewable electricity since 2009, has district heating fed from waste incineration plant and wood power plant. The CO2 emissions per person and year in Basel were 3.5 tons in 2018. In 2017, the revised energy law came into force. The most important innovations are the target of 1 ton CO2 per person and year until 2050. In the meantime, there is a political push about net zero until 2050, what is in preparation at the moment. Then maintain 100% renewable electricity, also in the liberalized market. 80% CO2-free district heating until this year, 2020. 90% renewable energy of the total power consumption in a long term. To implement these measures, we have, for instance, an energy structure plan. He shows where in Basel which sort of renewable power supply is suitable. The planning is authority binding. We have in the energy law the obligation of heating replacement. That means that at the end of the lifespan, the heating has to be replaced by a renewable variant. We also have the specification that new buildings do have a power consumption close to zero and do have to produce their own renewable electricity. The climate action plan includes also activities in the field of a sustainable mobility. In Basel, we have, for instance, a parking space management with which we feed the commuter fund. With the commuter fund, we finance park and ride and bike and ride on the edge of town or even in the neighboring canton or country. Climate change is a big challenge worldwide and in Basel as well. Cities worldwide are affected by the heat island effect, Basel too. This is the reason why Basel realized the city climate analysis based on a model. We know for every 10 to 10 meter place in Basel how hot and ventilated it is today and in 2030. The city climate analysis is the base for elaborating a city climate concept, which includes concrete activities to improve the city climate. Basel has a climate adaptation report since 2011, which was actualized now. All offices from different departments that are thematically involved work together and implement measures in the areas of biodiversity, forest, agriculture, streams, groundwater, drinking water, shipping, building and infrastructure, canalization, spatial planning and ventilation and health. The city climate concept is based on the city climate analysis, shows the possibilities to react, is the beginning of a long-term process, and the budget for financing the concrete actions will be requesting during the processing. And it's important that it is based on an integral approach. And now to the Smart City Basel. What does Smart City, or rather Smart City Basel, mean? We need new approaches, innovative ideas, and also we need to connect people. So only so we can create our future together. As a smart city, Basel harnesses the possibilities presented by digitalization to address the challenges mentioned before. Being smart simply means that we use everything at our disposal, including digital technologies and data, to secure the quality of life for the people in Basel, because this is the ultimate aim of being a smart city. To make it short, we want to preserve today's quality of life for future generations.
Thank you very much. And to improve today's quality of life, it's not necessarily the optimum. But on this note, I'd like to invite Eitan Ben-Ami from the city of Tel Aviv, the head of the Environmental Authority, to join us. Eitan?
Welcome. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon.
So let me remind you how this part is going to work. It's a dialogue. It's actually challenging to hold a dialogue discussion in Zoom because you don't really see each other, but we'll have to improvise. So Eitan, why don't you open the floor with a question and also possibly an example from your city, and then Otto will respond and the ball will go back to you.
Have we finished with the slideshow?
Yes, that's no problem. That's no problem. I'm happy to listen to Tel Aviv and to you, Eitan, and your experiences.
Thank you. I wanted to ask you, you're in charge of important areas in the municipality of Basel, putting everybody together to work toward your goals. And I want to ask you, what is the main challenge that you find during your job? Is it within the municipality? Is it has to do with the citizens, or does it have to do with outside elements like the government or organizations?
Yes, I think it's really very important to concrete the collaborations, inclusion and transparency. As I said, it's very important to have a steering board, as we are in the administration. But I think it's important also to have concrete results in public-private partnerships, so that we can realize innovation for our future together with science, with the economy, with society. I think this is hard work to do, but I think it's very important to focus on the approach and not only focus on the aim.
That's interesting.
It's the way. It's the method which is in the foreground.
That's interesting. Also here, I think that we decided not to balance our program on approach that we complain that somebody else doesn't do their job, if it's the government or if it's organization, and to focus first on what can we do better to optimize the potential that we have within the municipality, the professionals that we have here from planning and strategic plan, all the way to the person that actually does the work out there somewhere in the city. And we were able to put everybody together now within an adaptation plan that we just published, that at least we know that we combine the forces within the municipality to do better. And now I think that we have the legitimacy, I would say even, to go to government offices and to say, listen, we did our share, now please do your share. The other thing that we do is we ask also the citizens to be part of what we do, because there are things that it's in the municipality responsibility. We can pave hundreds of kilometers of bicycle roads, but if the citizens are not going to use them, it's not a success. So we have to work with the people to use the bicycle lane and to understand why we're cutting maybe parking lots in order to encourage that. How do you do it with your citizens to encourage them to join your efforts?
Yes, I think we both initiate our own projects and also with our citizens, but also partner up with business, research institute and surrounding communities, and all activities are addressed to the citizens, and all the activities are important for quality of life. But I think that transparency and participation is really very important in our cities, and maybe the smart city can also give a contribution to the participation because of the new possibilities.
That's I find it that we do maybe the same. We just published a call for citizens, for a group of citizens, activists, that asked them to give us ideas, what in their power and in their wish to change the quality of life in the life of climate change and sustainability within their neighborhoods. And we received over 70 ideas. We chose about 20 that vary from different things, from community gardens to recycle to other areas. And we're going to give them a stipend, like about $2,000 maybe to each of the initiatives, and support from different departments in the community or in the municipality in order to push it forward. It doesn't have to be just technology. It can be variety of things. I want to show, Oli, can I also share a screen?
That's a really good question. I don't know.
Yes, I can.
Okay, there you go.
Yes, of course.
Yes, I want to share one or two things that we are working on now in matter of technology. This is an idea of, it's a shade that also is a solar panel that can give you light at night. And this just was one of the winner of the Women for Climate C40 program. And one of the Israeli lady that brought it up. So we're going to promote it in Tel Aviv. That's part of what we want to do in the area. Another interesting thing that we just put together is a special technology. So buses can charge themselves, electric buses can charge themselves while driving. So this is the infrastructure, and this is how the roads look after that. So if it works, it can be really a breakthrough because Tel Aviv is not a huge city and a lot of people coming in. We have a lot of commuters and we want to encourage public transportation. This may be one of the things to reduce the pollution and to bring the technology to life. So this is a project that we do together with some innovation company. Are you having areas of like a beta site in Basel?
Now let me firstly say, I think the collective intelligence is a really important resource in our cities, and we have really to use this collective intelligence. But it's also important to have our own projects, as you have in Tel Aviv, and to test in the field. We also have a few examples which are also similar to your examples. The Department of Transport in Basel, for instance, is testing an intelligent traffic light system, optimizing the system for pedestrians, and the electrification of our public transportation is also well underway, as I could see now. It is in Tel Aviv, and as I said before, the electricity in Basel is 100% renewable. And last but not least, I think that open data is also very important. Open data is the basis for many applications built by private companies, data offered by the administration of Basel for free. And I would like to ask you if you have also an open data strategy in Tel Aviv.
We're trying to have it now. We actually have a system, it's called Banana. It's in the Hebrew, the initials give us actually a computer program to control the electricity, mainly in municipality buildings, schools, community centers, etc. It's in the second phase of the program, and we hope to put it together, and then we will be able to have an open data so we can show which school or which municipality branch is really saving energy, and be able to control even each room and each air condition by itself from a distance. That's something that we work on. We're not yet in your level of, we have a commitment to have 100% renewable energy by 2030 as much as possible. So now we're in a process to, in every public building that we're building now, school or municipality or existing buildings, we're putting a PV panel that we try now. The innovation idea is to have vertical panels. That's something that we're working on. And also in commercial buildings, we found out that the windows in high-rise are maybe protecting the people inside from the heat, but they producing and making the area around them very hot. So now we try in a very modern building that is now being planned, 100 stories high, that all the south side of the building will be with the vertical panels to produce energy and to be able to prevent heat effect around it. The people that are in charge of it are with us, and I hope that we'll be able to do it. What we do have a little different than, or in addition to you, we're trying, this is, it's called EcoWave. It's making electricity from waves. We have 14 kilometers of beach, and this is a structure that is very easy to put on. You can fold it in case of a big storm, and all the infrastructure is above water, so it's very easy to handle. We have a model of it in the Jaffa Harbor, and hopefully we're going to be able to place it in many other places. So we can count on waves and the sun. We have probably 9 months of sunny days here in Tel Aviv. So it's a waste that we don't use it that much, but we're on our way. Oli is telling me that our time is up in a very basketball way. So again, thank you. Thank you for allowing us to share and to discuss a little bit about what's going on here and in Basel.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much.
I just have seen a question in the chat. Maybe I can short. Yes, quickly. That we have to share innovation with little municipalities. I have the understanding that our cities have the responsibility for innovation. We have the responsibility for innovation hubs with our universities, with the strong economy in our cities. But naturally, we have to share all our innovation with the other communities.
This is a very interesting segue into our next session, but I really have to ask you, I'll give you another 30 seconds. I visited Basel a few years ago, and there was a civic solar center, a center where residents could get information, could get support in order to adopt renewable energy. Is this something that still exists? And is this something that the municipality organizes and supports?
Yes, I think it's important to have a permanent dialogue with the citizens. So we have it still in Basel.
Wonderful. And this is really brings us to our next session, which is dedicated to the interaction between the municipality and stakeholders, residents, businesses, And for this, we're happy to host the city of Geneva as a case study on this aspect. And we'll invite Ms. Nadine Alal, the project manager of Agenda 2021, to present the Sustainable City Strategy of Geneva. And then for the dialogue, it's going to be an all-female session. Ella Alexandri, the director of Merchav, will join Nadine. So Nadine, the floor is yours. And again, if I didn't thank the participants of the last session, I will emphasize again, thank you for a very interesting and inspiring session. Nadine, the floor is yours.
Yes, hello. I'm just sharing my presentation document, seeing if that works. Does that work for everybody?
Yes, great.
Yes.
And is my video and audio working correctly?
Everything seems to be fine.
Yes, well, first, thank you very much for this invitation.
Your video is not on. We can't see you.
Okay, let me go back. Ah, yes, start video. Is it
see
working now?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so yes, thank you very much for the invitation. So Geneva in many ways is similar to Basel in terms of its size and in terms of it being quite an international and urban center, even though it's on quite a small surface, and also because we are a, wait a minute. How can I go onto the second page of my document? Yeah, so just first a little overview. I'll be presenting a few points on sustainability in Geneva, and then I will really zoom in to one single program and one single project. So in contrast to the Basel presentation, which was really a strategy overview, I'm really going to zoom in to a specific project. So Geneva is located on the map. As you can see, we are also surrounded by France, so we're a transnational agglomeration. And in terms of climate challenges, we have both challenges linked to our territory and more general challenges linked to the importation of food products and other objects, electronics, etc. So in terms of our territory, obviously the three big challenges, like in Basel, are linked to housing, heating. Electricity is 100% renewable in Geneva as well for the past couple of years. Mobility, which is a very big challenge, because as I say, lots of people come from France to work in Geneva. We have over 100,000 border crossings per day in an agglomeration of about 800,000. But the city center for which I work, the municipality, is 200,000 people. So you can really see that there's a very big transit issue. And then, of course, like many other cities, dense cities, built cities, there's a whole issue of adaptation in order to have less heat in summer, especially now that climate change is occurring. But what I would really like to underline is that this territorial climate footprint is only 40% of our climate impact. People in Switzerland are rich, buy a lot of products, and we really feel that it is important not to neglect issues of responsible production and consumption. So linked to food, linked to local agriculture, linked to the circular economy. The small example here, the second little photo with the white thing on the black thing, it's mushrooms which are growing on microbrewery waste. And then also the idea of buying less stuff, so sharing, borrowing, repairing things we have. So in the link, in the idea of having more social innovation in our production and consumption, we started in 2016 a program called innove, so Geneva Innovation, not very original, but that's the name we chose. It's a new program that has a budget of about 470,000 Swiss francs this year. Initially, it was a smaller amount. And we have 2 project calls per year in June and in December for social innovations. What's really, really interesting in this project is that it is open to all types of structures. It is open to NGOs, it is open to companies, it is open to members of the city administration. We have 2 budget lines which allow us to be very flexible because we can work through subsidies or we can work through purchasing. And a lot of the projects are also interdisciplinary. So what have we been able in 4 years to do with the innove program? There have been 178 projects submitted, of which about 1/3 have been approved. And there's many different kinds of projects. Our remit is very large because we figured we couldn't really be too specific in terms of innovation. So some projects are research projects. The one that's in the first little picture is the climate meter. It's a way of measuring not only temperature, but also reverberation, humidity, video, and in order really to analyze the effects of different streets with the adjacent buildings on the climate as humans feel it. So there's research projects, there's hackathons or other events that are there to generate ideas. We've been funding specific training projects, like, for example, the zero waste workshops, where citizens can learn how to reduce household waste. Very concrete experimentations like this. This last little photo is an aquaponic container, which allows us to grow vegetables and fish on a parking lot. So that was really just a more experimental. But about half of the projects that we've supported have been launching new structures, new projects that remain in the city in all sorts of areas. And I would like to zoom in onto 2 areas. One, we've had lots of projects around food, about new ways of producing food, of favoring local varieties, of favoring urban agriculture, new ways of distributing food, helping local organic producers to deliver their produce for school restaurants, with a new platform that helps this exchange, also preparing some foodstuffs, so washing them, shredding them, so that it's more easy for the buyers in the restaurants to use the food, the local organic food. And also new ways of purchasing food. We've supported the development of 2 new food stores, one in a cooperative mode and one which is in a zero waste mode, which are alternatives to the more regular supermarkets we have in Geneva. I won't go into more detail about the food, because the other project I want to present today in even more detail is linked to making. We discovered through innove that we had very many new structures, new NGOs, new cooperatives that were dedicated to repairing objects, making objects, to sharing tools, reconditioning old electronics or building materials for new use. And a lot of these projects not only came to us asking for support in launching their activities, but they had a very big problem in terms of finding space, central space in Geneva to do so. Rent is extremely expensive in Geneva, and it was very difficult for these emerging projects to find room in the city center to grow. So an opportunity cropped up. We have one last remaining industrial area in the city center of Geneva called the Zone Industrielle des Charmilles, whose acronym is ZIC. So I'll be talking about the ZIC. And this space was used about half by the city administration for storage purposes, and also with a few workshops or a place to park vehicles. And about half the space was also rented out to small artisans. Now, this area in the city center of Geneva was at the heart of a new neighborhood with a new art and design campus with many new other companies. And the city felt that it really needed to be put to a more dynamic use than just used for storage or for parking. So one member of staff was dedicated to this project, working with the different units to try to find alternatives for their storage or parking needs. And 2,300 square meters have been vacated by the city to date. But before rushing into filling them, we used the innove funds to organize co-design workshops with the artisans who were present, with NGOs, with city staff, with various experts, in order to think about what's the best way of using this newly vacated space in the city center. And there was a consensus that the city needed a new space dedicated to innovation that was open and accessible, and also that the occupants who are there currently also need more occasions to meet and to interact with meeting spaces, cafe, common events, etc. And so one of these first spaces that was vacated by the city has now been dedicated to becoming a makerspace, as people call that, location dedicated to the circular economy, where people can come and recuperate secondhand materials, work on them, repair objects, borrow things, borrow tools, etc. Also with space for events. And what happened, which was really interesting, is that we were then able to go towards several of the NGOs and cooperatives that had solicited money in Genève and bring them around a table and encourage them to build a collaborative project. i.e., we did not just take the space and rent one corner to NGO A and one corner to NGO B and one corner to NGO C, but we really asked them to build a fêtière, a federal kind of structure, so that, for example, when a member of the public comes in, he does not necessarily have to become member of every specific association, but that really it's one big space that functions in an organic way. It's now has a name. It's they decided on that a week ago. It's going to be called La Maco, for Manufacture Collaborative. And at the moment, there are some renovation works for the secure, so that public members of the public can come in securely in terms of fire hazards, etc. And there's been quite a complex development of a structure where there's these different individual cooperatives that then work together, that then work with a workspace cooperative at the city of Geneva. And altogether, everybody is investing different chunks of what needs to be invested for this space. And it's been a slow process because we started talking about it in 2016-17. And now, hopefully, at the end of November, we will have the inauguration. So that's we're very enthusiastic about that. And to conclude, my take-home messages about this project is that the innove program, which was extremely open to NGOs, to companies, on a whole variety of topics, helped us identify which local projects are emerging, which are the emerging needs. And without that, we probably wouldn't have thought of developing a makerspace at the Zik. And that the city of Geneva, the municipality, really played a key role. First, because we owned this space in the center of Geneva that had low rent, but also because we actively encouraged the different actors and NGOs to work together. And in some cases, it worked better than in others. I'd say out of the maybe 10 projects linked to circular economy and making that came into Geneva. At the end of the day, maybe 5 or 6 of them are working together. So not everybody managed to collaborate, but we really managed to create one new dynamic that was very, very fruitful. Another take-home message is that you really mustn't underestimate the human resources needed to navigate all the constraints, because the city is used to building or renovating a space to perfect standards and then using it or putting it into rent. But there we have some very old and not very practical buildings. And the idea was not to tear it down and to completely renovate it, but just to make it usable. And then there were all sorts of constraints in terms of who is responsible for what and who's going to do what and how to get the authorization for this and that. And that has taken time. And it has also taken time to meet people, bring them around the table, and for them to constitute into a group that wants to work together. And finally,
Nadine, I really hate to interfere, but
sorry. Okay, yes, I've been going a bit long. I was seeing only my my presentation and not any other signs.
Not my desperate signs.
Sorry.
But, thank you. And now I'd like to invite Ella Alexandri. And you don't know what when we planned it ahead, we didn't realize what a good matchmaking we're actually doing, because Ella comes not only from a planning background, but much more from a public participation and participatory background. So Ella, the floor is yours. Join us.
It's amazing. I'm so thrilled to talk about it, because as an NGO activist, as urban activist, it's more than interesting for me to hear our municipality takes the all urban thing with the public or with NGOs, and what way they work together, or what are the challenges, because I would like to ask some questions about the challenges. Mm-hmm. But before that, I would just give maybe a very general background. The money you mentioned it's about 1.8 million shekels, just to estimate, to get the estimation of the money involved. And the size of your city is, for the Israeli audience here, it's Petah Tikva, Netanya, Chulon, Ashdod, and Be'er Sheva, which are not huge cities, but fine, nice cities. So it gives us a lot of investment from the city, in your size, in initiatives of NGOs, which is more than impressive. I really would like to speak with, a municipality from Israel the same size to have those details in comparing. We have a lot, and in the short, I have a question, but I would like to say we have a lot of local initiatives. Most of them has to do with community-oriented. As community gardens, we are really strong in community gardens, since we can put in both the community and the environmental side of things. And it is supported by municipalities and government office, which is really nice. A lot of loan storage, like you can share tools and stuff. I'm familiar definitely with some cooperative supermarkets and cooperative bars, which is also nice. So we do have it, but to put it as you put it, as a strategy, with the people resource, as you mentioned in the end, it's very unique as far as I can see. But I will like to ask you some questions, what will you consider as a success? I mean, you showed so many things. What will be considered a success? You started 4 years ago, and the ZIP is quite new, actually pre-ZIP. Mm-hmm. What is a success for you?
Yes, I mean, we really hope that the Maco, the Manufacture Collaborative at the ZIC, is going to be actually used by the public. So we have these NGOs that have their members and, 30 members here, 50 members here, 100 here. But we really hope that by bringing them together, by creating a new central space, we're really going to be able to increase the number of people using that, the number of people who, instead of rushing out to the supermarket when their coffee machine is broken, think, maybe I can go fix it at the Zik, or who decide that if they need a new coffee table, that they're going to try to make it with some of the recuperated materials that are available instead of importing something from halfway across the world. So we really hope that this new offer that doesn't exist in the city will actually be appropriated by the city residents.
That's very interesting, and I'm sure maybe later you can talk about the evaluation you're doing. I mean, do you have an evaluation process? I mean, we're all doing the best, and it's a problem also in NGOs in Israel, and working is always, we're doing, but are we doing good enough? Do we measure what we're doing, and what tools do we use?
Yes, I mean, we have a yearly reporting system. It's not formalized in very numerical indicators, but we obviously are going to be following it. Also, during the whole process, we have regular meetings with the NGOs and see how things are happening, etc. And we can also try to help them with their communication for reaching new publics that's maybe outside their own circle. So as a municipality, through our own communication strategies, websites, communal newspaper, etc., we can maybe touch more people than they would.
That's great, because it goes directly to what interesting new tools do you use? Maybe you can share a tool or two with us, helping those NGOs doing what they do.
Yes, I mean, one of the very interesting things about innove is that we're very flexible in how we use our money. And so we were able to use it also, for example, to coach the 5 NGOs that were separate NGOs. We wanted to help them create a new common structure. And so some of the money that is used by the City of Geneva is used for coaching or helping in structuring their governance or communication purposes. So it's not only in buying materials, but it's really in thinking of how things work. About the amounts of money, I really would like to stress that Switzerland is a country with a very high cost of living. So sums that seem huge in Geneva are maybe different elsewhere. So that is also something to keep in mind. I mean, we're aware of the fact that we're in relative terms rich, but then we also have very high cost of living. So yeah.
So I just wanted to, to give to show what the numbers means here. Of course, you cannot translate one-to-one, that's obvious. Maybe I would like to hear a little bit about the people in those NGOs. I mean, what age, what social economics level they are coming from. Just a little bit about the cut of the people running and going and invest time and volunteer time usually in those projects.
Yes, definitely. So I would say that it's mostly people who are aged maybe between 25 and 35, who are quite educated for the most and who are also experienced. The City of Geneva has already encountered many of these people in other NGOs or other structures, or they were active as students, etc. But they brought their expertise in the creation of new structures. A lot of these structures that are funded through innove have only been created this year, last year, very, very new structures. But the people who are running them, some of them are new people, but many of them actually are people that are fairly experienced already in citizens' engagement.
Wow. Well, yeah, I have this theory of it's mine. No research was taken, that it's the same people all the time. They know what they do. Now they do that. Later they will do another thing, but they know what they're doing. They are really experienced in their way of the NGO system. I'm hearing a lot about the investment in people. You're really giving them tools. You're putting a person. Can you talk a little bit about the structure of helping or working with? I don't want to use the word helping. I would like to talk about partnerships. So what is the challenge in this part?
I would say that in this project of the Maco, we had two different kinds of challenges. One kind of challenge was working with colleagues in the City of Administration and the Department of Construction or in other or rentals who aren't used to things being more experimental, and we have to reassure them and show them how things will go. And then working with the people from the NGOs. On the one hand, we do have some means to assist them, but on the other hand, they still have to own the project. There's a whole issue about project ownership, and we've had many discussions also about to which extent is it a partnership, is it a city project, is it an NGO project? Obviously, we're all in it together, but. It's complicated for people who've invested a lot of their personal time in developing something to then just say, well, it's not just mine, but it's ours. And at the same time for city colleagues who've invested a lot of time and then they see sometimes the NGOs communicating without mentioning the city and they feel a bit, well, wait a minute, we were really involved in this too. So I'd say that, and then the third challenge maybe is an issue of timing, because things can move very slowly, but then you still have to keep everybody on board, keep everybody motivated, keep everybody focused on the end goal, even though all of a sudden you have to wait 6 months for this authorization or 6 months for this other thing to happen. And so keeping everybody on board and then being flexible. Some people cannot stay as a volunteer in a project for so long, so some people leave, some people come, and make sure to welcome the newcomers.
That's one more.
Yeah, and you can have one last question. Nadine can have one last response, and then we'll need to move on.
Okay. I would like even to say that you have to work together with two very different ways of working, of structures. Mm-hmm. And I guess one of your job is to be there in the middle, represent the other side. Mm. So I would like to hear about the structures you're putting in. That will be my last question. And I have thousands more, and it's great.
But they'll have to wait. And I will also add a segue to Ela's question. It's a question from the chat. People were wondering what municipal entities were involved, whether it was social workers, community workers, environmental department. So if you can also relate to that.
Yes, so from the point of view of the city, it started with the Agenda 21 unit, for which I am working, which is quite a transverse unit. We collaborate with a lot of with all the other departments on sustainability issues mainly. But then, of course, there were many other city units that were involved. There is the Gérance Immobilière Municipale, which takes care of renting buildings that belong to the city to third parties. There's the Département des Constructions, which have to help us for all the construction work so that it can be open to the public. And then there were the former users of those spaces. So some were from the Espace Vert, from the gardenings, or from the police who were storing materials or vehicles on that space, who needed to be assisted to find alternative places so that we could put other activities on that space. And then there were some external structures, like there's a foundation that was able to loan them some money for part of the renovations. There's a workspace cooperative which specializes in taking temporary vacant spaces and renting it out to NGOs. Then there are the 5 different specific NGOs that have also grouped into another association. So it's quite a complex structure to finally get everybody on board.
Inspiring, and in that word I will end. It's inspiring, and I wish more cities in Switzerland and in Israel, of course, we'll take it as an example for the way or trying to work in a common area for the better good.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to both of you. It was really a thought-provoking session and inspiring, and it leads to our next and final session, which is dedicated to civil action, specifically on energy. The Swiss aspect will be presented by Ms. Maren Kuman, the CEO of the Energy City Association. And after her presentation, Jeremy Ben Shalom from the Society for Protection of Nature will join her. So, Maren, are you here?
Thank you very much. I will share my screen.
Wonderful, thank you. We can see your presentation. You can put it in presentation mode. It will be easier.
Yes. So now it's presentation mode. Is that okay for you?
Yes, that's wonderful.
Yes. Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you for this invitation and this very inspiring series up to now. It's a little bit something I close a little bit the circle, because I'm very proud to say that both Basel and Geneva are both first movers in our initiative as well, and I think it's very consequential that they are so far approaching this very innovative innovative strategies. My presentation will be a bit more theoretical, but perhaps, as Lucas said, you need to focus on the approach as well, which means from our experience, you can only achieve these very ambitious goals if you have a good system behind. And I think perhaps Nadine and also Lucas can agree that perhaps Energiestadt also a little bit laid the ground for some of these initiatives that are now going on, but long years ago. Yes, I would like to present to you this label Energiestadt, Energy City, Cité de l'Énergie, however you would like to call it, what it is and how the system works. It's a real bottom-up approach, which was initiated about 30 years ago. So the cities did recognize their power and scope of action for environmental issues, and but they didn't see a real good program on the national level. And together with the World Wildlife Fund that supported this engagement of the cities, there was this initiative called Energiestadt, and which led to some kind of grassroots approach. And in 1990, there was a 10 years moratorium on nuclear power plants, which also boosted these initiatives. And then in 1991, we had the first Energiestadt, which was Schaffhausen, that got awarded. And yes, it led to the founding of an association, which is still present, and which is an association of municipalities.
אני שומע, אבל יש שם מלא רעש על הקו.
Eitan, can you turn your mic off, please?
I muted him.
Okay, thank you. So it then led to the founding of an association from municipalities for municipalities, and this is what is Energiestadt today. So this is in German, unfortunately. I'm sorry, but it a little bit shows the way where we were going in the last years, from the first Energiestadt to additional cities joining from different areas in Switzerland. We had from the Swiss French part participants, and we achieved that we have cities that achieve a gold standard, which is much higher. So there is 30 years of experience in this program. This is where we are today. So today we are at about 650 municipalities participating, and more than 60% of citizens of Switzerland live in an energy city. So this is quite good, and it's a huge initiative and has a really big impact. So the question is, why municipalities? So we have recognized that the cities and towns have a huge potential for action. So on a local level, you have a huge multiplication effect. You can share experiences, examples of the municipality that also leads to action in private households as well, or trade, industry, commercial areas. You have immediate awareness of projects, of success and results if you act on local level. And you can show the feasibility and viability of the policies that are available. So the measures and action on municipal level leads also to investment of local trade and industry. So we have a huge impact on local added value. So you don't have to be that much dependent on foreign energy sources. You get more local added value, and it leads to a better quality of life of inhabitants. So after that Energiestadt was developed in Switzerland, we succeeded to also bring it to other areas in Europe and to found some kind of association on also international level, and by that get a huge active network for sharing experiences. And this is what it's today. And it shows that the system is ideal and possible to be adapted to other national circumstances.
Marianne?
Yeah?
Do you have something connected to your computer? Because we keep hearing something that is connected, unconnected, connected, unconnected, possibly? Like a mouse or phone?
Perhaps it's a microphone, but no.
Okay, it's not too bad, okay. Well.
We'll just have to ignore it. No, you can go on. Now we've lost you. Moran?
Yeah, okay, just connect it if it's the microphone, so there's not much to do with it.
Moran, we've lost you. Jeremy, oh, yes. Moran is joining us again.
I know. Well, I want her to be part of whatever I'm saying. I can say things. I mean, you know, we have. No, obviously that wasn't the idea. We'll just contact Moran and we'll see where we're at. I can explain a few things if you want. We had a conversation yesterday of about an hour, myself and Moran. It was extremely interesting, and I would say that for us, some explanations for the Israeli guys and ladies here in the crowd. One has to understand the differences between Israel and Switzerland, and basically, I was very impressed by the structured and the well thought way that Switzerland or other countries address the issues of climate change and energy. Something that is less commonly done here in Israel, where we're more ad hoc, kind of, we have this project and then we drop it and we go to a different project, and maybe the mayor changes and then the agenda changes slightly, and that is something that we I think should learn as much as possible from things that are done in Switzerland, where they have this long-term perspective and this very strategic attitude towards things. And what Moran is talking about is very much part of that. Environmental management systems or energy management systems are systems that are put in place that check a variety of different subjects and tries to optimize the work of the municipality to a much more climate friendly or low carbon footprint. Where, I don't know, Orly, you tell me, I don't know how many municipalities here in Israel are maybe the big 15, yes, but also within those big 15s, I don't know how many are really taking it as, you saw there, Maren showed over 400 municipalities in Switzerland dealing with those things.
Yes, actually there were some Israeli cities who joined the Energy Cité network, and we even hosted the main exhibit of the network some years ago here in Israel. It was a fascinating exhibition. And again, there's a call for proposals that the Ministry of Energy just published, which relates directly to this, and hopefully it will be a driver for more cities to join. And as you know, and can probably expand on, there are a lot of challenges for cities. And it's also the one thing that is very obvious in Israel is that it's not clear that a city, a municipality, what the role of the municipality vis-a-vis the energy of the city, not the municipal energy, but energy at large, is something that the municipalities are just now addressing. And it's really very vague in Israel as for their, even their role within it. But Maren has joined us, so thank you.
Orly. Yeah, we should have you part of it. We should have this in the tree thing with a triangle at the end. Stay.
Absolutely. But Maren, the floor is yours. Take it. No?
I'm really sorry because the internet connection was lost.
That's fine.
I will try again to share my screen. Okay, can you see my presentation?
Yes.
Fine. So, as I said, we achieved to have an international association on the Energiestadt system, which is called European Energy Award, and it is some kind of an initiative that has as a goal to implement an energy management system in a municipality. It's the aim to have a customized energy management system for better plan, implement, monitor local energy policy. So it gives a frame for understanding what you have to do, how you have to do it, and how you can achieve your goals. So and we saw this some of these pictures we saw today already with the presentation of Basel, that 30, 40 years ago, there was a huge problem with environmental issues. And nowadays, today, there are the possibility of swimming in the Rhine River. So this led, this was led by a continuous improvement of the work. And this is what we want to achieve: continuous improvement, a continuous way on achieving your goals. And what Energiestadt delivers, there are a lot of other systems around, but what we think it's kind of unique selling point of this system is that you get a concrete guidance through customized tools. You have a continuous accompaniment and support by advisors, and you have a nationally tailored management system. It's not something which is for the whole world the same. It's really adapted to your needs, and it's the base for planning and assessment on the qualitative way. It helps to have local leadership and scope for action, local authorities really considered in what you're doing, and it respects these circumstances. We are trying to address all areas which are in any way addressed or in any responsibility of the local administration, coming from urban and spatial planning to the own buildings, to energy waste and wastewater where it is relevant, to transport mobility topics, also internal organization, finance, cooperation, communication. So also the soft measures, also on participation and the work with the citizens is addressed here, and we check what can be done, what is done, how can we improve on that. And that leads to some kind of process of continuous improvement, political commitment, finding structures, setting up an energy team, doing some kind of initial review, implement, act, develop an action plan, and then monitor this. And then if you are successful, you can achieve a certification. But this is not a one circle that you do. It's something that you have to repeat every 4 years. You have to stay on track. And we have now in Switzerland half of these 450 cities that are in the system are implementing the system for more than 12 years. So they are really appreciating this long-term sustainability of this project. And yes, and then when it comes to the certification and the auditing, they are quite proud to also show to their citizens and to other cities what they have done. So these different steps are very important in achieving the goals and in repeating always the system and join the lessons or share the lessons learned you have. And yes, this is my last slide, a statement, and also, yeah, you can see the city of Bern, Energiestadtmeister Champions League. So they are the best now in Switzerland at the moment, but yes, it changes every year. And they are very proud of it. So I think it's also nice to show what you have done and to communicate that.
Absolutely, thank you. And Jeremy?
That's wonderful.
Comments?
Thank you, Marianne. That's really amazingly interesting, and I think it kind of does wrap up the two specific examples we had earlier, and brings into perspective a more general approach and overlook. I do want to stress here in Israel, we're 90%, over 90% of the population lives in cities. So whenever we deal with cities, it's definitely critical for the sustainability here in Israel. And 74% of the population live in 77 cities. So even not too many cities. And I would even say more than that, a third, more or less a third of the population live in the Tel Aviv metropolitan area. That means dealing with cities here in Israel is definitely a huge opportunity for change. It is a place, we're a small and crowded country. It's a place where if we have tools as you presented, it could create a big positive impact. But of course, we have many challenges, and while you were down, the internet was disrupted with you. So we chatted a bit with Orly, and I'm happy that Orly is still here on the screen, because there are challenges to adopt those kind of the initiative, basically some kind of management system or energy management systems as you offer. And I would be very happy to hear your perspective, because here in Israel, the way we work is we're bright, we have innovation. You saw Tel Aviv has all of those great ideas, and other places have, but we're very incremental in the way we address things. We address it a bit here, a bit there. And you present a more stable, a more management overlooking system. Could you address a little those differences between an incremental approach and a more managed approach? How do you see the differences, and what benefits we could have from an approach that you have at the Energiestat?
Yes, what we experience is that a lot of municipalities, cities, or also villages, I think each size is somehow addressed. They want to do something, but a lot of them don't have a lot of resources, financial resources, or also staff resources, and so they need to be very careful where to start with, where to set the priorities, what is the best way of investing. And what really helps is to have a structured approach that leads them to the point to decide on these priorities and to to make sure that they invest in the best way. And so that's something I think that is very helpful. It's also good to start with projects, and it's always good to have some results, to see projects. We also focus on being implemented orientated. We don't want to have a lot of resources binded by this energy management system. This is why we try to deliver a lot of guidance and standards in advance. But with no energy management system, it's really difficult to be able to decide where to invest your resources. And so this is where we try to find some kind of balance between administrative issues like energy management system and implementing projects. And so I think the balance is quite well in this system.
Okay.
It's a question.
Yes, please, Orly.
One last, I just wanted to conclude and say that the question of balance, or the question of whether we're succeeding in mainstreaming the climate change and mainstreaming sustainability, or whether it's just an array of different pieces of the puzzle that are not connected. And I think this is what you're referring to, Jeremy, that we have a lot of pieces, they're not necessarily connected. And what we're seeking all the time is the connection. And what we saw today were different pieces of a puzzle, but I think I was under the impression that one of the things that we can learn from the Swiss examples are the frameworks and the connections and the mainstreaming of these issues. And if you allow me to conclude our discussion on this point, unless you have something really important to say.
I had only one. We had only one. The others don't leave the most important part neglected. The others had much more time. But give us one or two more questions. I know we're
go ahead.
We're beyond. We're in
we're okay.
Some extra time, but building on what you said, yes, and putting the puzzle together, Maren, I would be very interested to hear one or two insights of how this environmental management system works. How do, let's say, we understand the advantages, but can you kind of give, I can help you, because it's an unfair question. It's a very big question, an open question. But for example, there is a well-known phrase that if you don't measure things, you cannot manage them. Or if you don't, so how do you, with your systems, with your environmental, your energy management system, what do you really provide? What is this starting point or this process? That give us a bit more examples, something more tangible.
Yes, perhaps how it works. It's we have a catalog of measures, and this catalog of measures shows with each measure what is the ideal status that we want to achieve, and then we get into discussion with the municipality. What did you achieve there? For example, if it comes to let's say the municipal buildings, or the ideal standard would be, one measure would be, do you have an energy performance of all your own buildings? And that is the question that we said. If you would have an energy management for all of your buildings and energy performance review, that would be ideal. And then we try to get into the discussion with the municipalities. Yes, we know about the city hall, but we do not know about the schools. So, and then we try to find out where is the status, where stand they, and what could be the next steps in achieving a better performance. And then we put this in an action plan, and we try to find out who could do this, what kind of resources do you need, and we go into the implementation, and 1 year later we come back and check, or half a year later we come back and check. So how did that work? Did you get into a process of achieving the data for the performance of the buildings, and so on and on? It becomes a more comprehensive view of what is the situation in the city, what can you do, and where can you go from there. I think that's very important. I had one example of the municipality that years ago tried to have a district heating system. Everybody says it's not possible, it's too expensive, and each year they tried to check again what are the circumstances, what are the framework rules, and now after 5-6 years they came to the point where they saw now the circumstances have changed. Now it's a good idea and a good situation for trying again for the district heating. If they wouldn't have checked annually what they can do, they would have never come to this decision and to this point. They would have neglected this idea, and then it would put into a drawer and never looked at it again. So the continuous check is really, really helpful.
That's wonderful. It's good to hear that it's a play between the municipality itself and an institution that is overarching the energy stat that helps the municipalities manage it. That means it's not only within the municipality, because manpower can change, mayors can change, and then agendas can move. But if it's some kind of long-term commitment, I see definitely the value of it.
But it still needs the ownership of the municipality.
It's the ownership of the municipality, but it's your, I suppose, some kind of external guidance. I know Oli is doing those movements. Oli, okay, but I do want to look. It's something you said, Oli. We have this tender now, right, for municipalities to start come with some kind of climate plan. But when I read this tender, it is really, really vague. It has very little information, very little guidelines. The criteria and the points of evaluating if a municipality is eligible or not is based on how many participants. One of the criteria, at least, is how many participants from within the municipality, and it seems very, very loose and not something that is yet put in a more, I would say, rigid or strict performance-based agenda to say, okay, if you're a municipality taking just the example that you said here, Maureen, okay, do you manage all of your municipal buildings? Do you have a system that regulates your energy consumption or lowers your energy consumption? How is your energy efficiency as a municipality? And things that you showed, soft things of waste collection, other things that you wouldn't immediately consider as climate change, but are definitely part of climate change. I think it's lacking here, and there's a lot to learn. I understand that also you're working not only in Switzerland, also in developing countries. Maybe the last question would be, how do you see the difference between working in a developed country in Switzerland? I know there's much more financing there, or I suppose there's more financing there, and help vis-a-vis developing countries, that their financial situation is maybe closer to what Israel is in, where it was budgetary. Well, all over the world there's budgetary issues, but especially now under COVID-19 and as resources become more scarce, what would be your insight, just to make us more optimistic about taking your system and implementing it here? And that'll be my last question.
Having money is helpful, right? For implementing projects, but what we see in the developing country is a little bit a different kind of approach. We use the system in order to find out what are the best projects that the municipality can do, and use that for getting money, for example, from international donors. So they also need some kind of reliable system if municipalities, cities want to apply for projects. They need some kind of reliable systems which show there is a monitoring and a process behind, so the money is invested in a good way. And for example, in Switzerland, we focus very much on the voluntary part of what municipalities can do in addition to what is obligatory on in the legal compliance. But in other countries, for example, in Serbia, where we are working now, we are trying to adapt the system to supporting the municipality in at least achieving their legal obligations, which is already a huge effort for them. So that is also a possibility. I think it's flexible enough to react on the local circumstances and the national needs and problems.
That brings up the issue of, would it be possible to expand it to Israel? But I won't even let you answer that, because I'd like to conclude to invite the ambassador of Switzerland to conclude the seminar, Mr. Jean-Daniel Rouche. We're sorry you weren't able to open the seminar, but at least you'll be able to close it. And thank you for the cooperation.
Thank you very much for the cooperation. Actually, it's much better to close it, because now I have much more inspiration then at the beginning, I would really like to thank you and to thank all the persons from Switzerland and Israel, especially from the cities, because that was the focus, who participated in this seminar. This was the first event in this new program we have launched, which we call Wake Up Diplomacy Towards a Healthy Future. And we were really encouraged. We were really encouraged to start by focusing on municipalities, and not just to start, maybe also to continue. Because for the simple fact that the cities, the municipalities all over the world are at the forefront of fighting the consequences of climate change. In 1950, only 30% of the world population was living in the cities. Today, it is almost 60% worldwide. In countries like Israel, we have heard it is 90%. We know that in Switzerland, it is over 80%. So from that point of view, we are very similar. And I think we are really facing very similar challenges. Plus, we are countries with roughly the same size in terms of population, and we are in the Champions League regarding innovation. So I do believe we have to continue these exchanges, which can be fruitful on both sides. There is maybe one difference which has been hinted at. I've seen it also in some of the questions on which we could focus for the future. You were talking about how do you make sure, somebody was asking, how do you make sure that when there is a change of government, for instance, that the policy will remain the same? Well, maybe we should say here that the participation of citizens is not only on a voluntary basis, but the citizens have also the right, both at the federal and at the local level, to challenge what the local government has been deciding, or to propose something. We have this wonderful institution of the referendum at all levels, and I think in Basel and Geneva, it's enough to collect 3,000 signatures to force a vote, a referendum, either on a decision taken by the municipality that you don't like, or to propose something that you would like. For instance, in Geneva in 2019, there was a votation on the prohibition, or at least a drastic limitation, of some chemicals on the territory, which is obviously also connected to the safe environment. And the other thing, there was a bit of talk on money. A big difference between Israel and Switzerland is that the cities and the cantons, so the local level, has a large degree of financial autonomy and also of competencies. So this is maybe one area where we could focus in the future, because that definitely plays a role. And if a government wants to change a policy which has been established and he faces a referendum on this change, he will definitely think twice before forcing such a change, which would not be popular. Sustainability is even more so a domestic and foreign policy priority for Switzerland nowadays, that the green movement in Switzerland has become relatively sizable. 21% of the seats in the national parliament are being occupied by the two green parties that we have, and which is also a major difference with Israel. Well, we will certainly continue. This is a foreign policy priority of Switzerland. We will continue in this series. And I would like to invite you all for our next event. You can see all the details on our website, and I think you have all seen where you can find it. The next event will be on 28th of October. It will be a discussion with a philosopher and professor in the University of Lausanne, who will speak about ethics in facing the climate change crisis, and also ethical implications of the current coronavirus crisis. And we are doing that this time in partnership with the Heschel Center for Sustainability. Again, thank you all, and I hope you will all be interested to participate in our next events and to visit also our website, where you will find all sorts of information, cartoons, and many other things. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank everybody who helped organize this very inspiring and interesting webinar. And also the people behind the scenes, Anat, Nir, Roni, I'm probably forgetting somebody, Livne. So thank you, everybody. And in addition to the ambassadors preview on the upcoming event, I'd like to add the 2 additional webinars on the 14th of October, again, same time slot, on flooding and stormwater management. This time it's going to be in Hebrew. And then the 3rd webinar is dedicated to trees in the city on the 21st of October. And we'll conclude after the seminar on the 28th that the ambassadors just described. On the 4th of November, we'll conclude the series with a seminar dedicated to urban climate policy in Israel from the national level and the local level. So again, thanks everybody, and hope to see you in our next webinar on the 14th of October. And Chag Sameach, everybody.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.